Welcome in, everyone. Hey, Sherry. See you again. Lynette, great to see you.
Lynette in her car.
Mhm.
Lynette's never going to miss mindful poetry. Jane, Mia, Nevia, am I saying that right?
Stephanie, Sarah, got Alma, the nice little typewriter as her profile picture. We'll let some folks just sort of roll into the room here. But I'm curious as to where everybody is calling in from. You want to just type in the chat your city and state? Love to know where people are calling from.
Sarah, are you wearing a crown?
No, do I look like I have
The way the light hit the top of your head, it looked like you had this amazing crown on. It suits you.
Why, thank you.
We got Stephanie from Boulder. Jane is calling in from Port Hope, Ontario, Canada. Charity from Concord, North Carolina. We got Carrie in Cincinnati. Sarah, who's usually in LA, who's calling from Seattle. That's cool. Nevia from Cincinnati.
Was that me, Bamaya?
Uh, where are you calling from, Maya?
I actually live in Oceanside, California. That's in San Diego County. I used to live in Cincinnati many years ago.
Oh,
That's great. Well, I think as folks roll in, I'm just gonna jump into like a little bit of an introduction. This is our final virtual gathering of National Poetry Month 2026, and we're so happy for any returning folk coming in over the years, or maybe you've just jumped into mindful poetry this year in 2026, and for any new folk that are here today. My name's Patrick. I manage Mindful Poetry. And if you're new to the program, we've been doing mindful poetry for a little over 7 years now. And we use the medium of poetry, both listening and writing it, to come into connection with the world, ourselves, and each other. And we're joined by our Mindful Poetry Moments 2026 curator, Eddie Gonzalez, who has chosen the theme for this month, which is This Common Home. And it's poetry that brings us into connection with what he's been describing as the more than human world. And I want to say happy Earth Day too. Um, so the concept for these gatherings are pretty simple. We meditate, we will read a poem, we'll hear a prompt, and then we will write and share poetry. You can then submit that poetry to our annual compilation, which we release every year in the summer. I will follow up after this meeting with more details about how you can submit. And we also record these meetings for folks that are unable to join us at this time. So if you don't want to be included in the YouTube video that is a recap of this session, just feel free to leave your camera on mute and you won't appear at all. So Mindful Poetry is facilitated by a wide group of collaborators. It includes poets, artists, community leaders. We were going to be joined by Indigenous mindfulness facilitator Michael Yellowbird today, but unfortunately he had a scheduling conflict, so he's unable to attend. But I'm still happy to introduce our mindfulness facilitator today, which is Stacy Sims, Executive Director of The Well. Stacy is a mind-body educator and author. In addition to being the founder of The Well, she is a novelist, a playwright, and children's book author. She has produced multiple theatrical works as a part of her social practice, gathering stories out of community engagement. So I will hand it off to Stacy Sims.
hello, everyone. I'm so delighted as always to be a part of this gathering. It's I mean, we shouldn't have programmatic favorites, but man, oh man, mindful poetry sure does lift our hearts and our spirit and our fortifies our sense of purpose every single year. It's so generative that it helps generate more energy for us as the team of the well. And it's in large part due to all of you showing up with your beautiful minds and your hope. So it's a delight to be here. So the poet, Jake, is it Skeets or S?
Jake Skeets.
Jake Skeets. I'm so excited to have Eddie walk us through this poem that we're going to listen to today. And the poem is named If Fire. And the poet has uses that structure of titling for not all of the poems, but many of the poems. So if fire, if desert, if senses.
Mhm.
So I'm going to do a little meditation that plays with the idea of the if, the conditional, the possible, and what might lie on the other side of it. So we're going to begin by just noticing around you and look for if light. So you're going to find in your space a source of light. And maybe just ponder there. There's not just the if light, there's something beyond that, the if not, or what happens because of. If light, if hands, we're going to move our attention to our own hands. If hands. Perhaps take those hands and place them on your heart for if heart. If breath. If breath. If safe. If smile. If smile. If love. If love. if love. If poetry. Let's rub our palms together. Seal in, or perhaps covering your eyes. Coming with a little massage or a little flutter of your fingers back into the potency of if we. So I'm going to segue over to a fuller introduction of Eddie Gonzalez. Without Eddie, there would be no mindful poetry moments. When we had the idea and reached out to the On Being Project, it was Eddie who said, oh, yes, we should definitely make this happen. And now, 7 years later, we're still gathering and bringing more poems to more people. So we're so excited to have Eddie back in the room. Eddie works at the intersections of spiritual care, community engagement, digital media, and creative expression. With a background in journalism and creative writing, he became a hospice chaplain in 2009, and over the last 16 years has worked within healthcare and national nonprofits, including On Being and StoryCorps. He has a relationship with and an interest in the inner and outer life of humans and the more than human, and how stories we tell can have profound impact on ourselves, each other, and the world around us. He's a senior fellow currently at Co-Generate and serves on the board of the podcast Threshold. He finds inspiration and solace in the arts, the outdoors, and time spent with loved ones. We are so delighted to have Eddie with us today.
Thank you, Stacy. And for all the generosity of that introduction, it would also not be possible if Stacy hadn't reached out initially to say, here is an idea. What do you think about this? And really just took incredible time to lay out a vision for what this project could be. So grateful to you and your vision, Stacy, and grateful also Patrick and Bryce for making it possible that we can do this today. Should we dive into the poem?
Yes, please.
So this is If Fire by Jake Skeets. I've been so excited to dive into this poem also in preparation for this day. I love this poem. If Fire. River brush float on the Rio Grande in very little water. To the north, a sleeper fire, holdover from last season's wilds. Bust, sprout, flame, crawl, the moon mistaken for a hole in the sky. If the next world, still deer soften into field, 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 meadow hawk, rodent nests, overgrown undergrowth. All tinder is white space, its span a mirror, your mouth around light. So I wanted, when we first started this, to introduce a little bit about Jake Skeets. Jake Skeets is Black Streak Wood, born for Water's Edge. It's a clan name. He's Dene from Vanderwagen, New Mexico, and the author of two books of poetry. One of them is Eyes Bottled Dark with a Mouthful of Flowers, which won the National Poetry Series, the American Book Award, among other awards. And then he has a new collection called Horses. Um, he's the third Navajo Nation Poet Laureate. He teaches at the University of Oklahoma. And he organizes poetry communities in the Southwest that are rooted in indigenous voices and in landscape, which landscape is a huge part of this poem. I feel like that grounding matters for how we receive this poem in the way that it is a close attention to landscape, one of drought and the potential for fire, one that's disorienting and somewhat even dystopian feeling. You have this sense of like if fire, which is sort of terrifying in a droughted landscape, and this if the next world, which is just feels like a loss of this world. So there's this hypothetical if in the title, and it's a hypothetical that feels more and more common as we look at the news even. We hear so much of how wildfires are happening, how they're seen more and more as signs of climate change and its catastrophes. But also Jake Skeets, he just had an essay that was published in Emergence magazine last month, in which he reflects on the presence of wildfires within the context of the memory of the land of the Navajo. And in that essay, he speaks of drought conditions as, and this is a quote, created by a warming planet and years of resource extraction that stole water from Navajo communities to build cities like Las Vegas and Phoenix, and that they've been an ongoing issue across the Navajo Nation. And so we feel in this poem that there's this continuation of fires. We have the opening of the low river, right? The river brush float on the Rio Grande in very low water. And clearly there have already been these wildfires. We see to the north there's a sleeper fire holdover from last season's wilds. The seeds for fire are already there. And there's this uncomfortable sort of anticipation as we survey a dry landscape and imagine what might be coming. So again, this sort of dystopian, this like sense of what's at stake. He has a really sober view of it, though. It's not panicked. It doesn't give a sense of despair that's really easy, but also not cheap hope. It's able to hold this complexity of both grief and of beauty and destruction and life. It doesn't give us an easy resolution. It doesn't collapse anything. And I think that's a really hard thing to do in a poem. I was really sort of fell in love with that aspect of this poem. But it's also one with a ton of creativity. And creativity is really not something easy to do if you're in fear. So I love that this poem feels fearless and playful, even amidst looking at something that seems so threatening. It's interesting that we start a poem about fire with an image of water. It's a river, even if it's running low. And I like that right when we get to bust sprout, we get this feeling that this fire is starting and the poem starts to move to the right, including with flame crawl. So like the lines start to indent more and more to the right. And it's almost like you're seeing a performance of fire itself crawling across the page. Um, the artistry, the music of it, the alliteration, it's not an easy poem, right? I mean, it's not like you read it and you know exactly what's going on. Even the title, If Fire, is almost really difficult to say. But bust sprout, flame crawl, the moon mistaken for a hole in the sky. There's this really lovely cadence. And in terms of that like disorientation, the way that it gives you a sense of what it might feel like to be in a fire, how confusing, how disorienting, the moon mistaken for a hole in the sky. This line with still deer, if the next world still deer soften. When I read that, I don't even know, are these motionless deer, as in they're still, or are they deer that are still simply present? It's unclear. And in that way, you're like, how do I read this? Things like overgrown undergrowth. If any of you have seen the upside down or the Stranger Things, it reminds me of like Stranger Things, the inversion of language, overgrown undergrowth. And the consumption of that last line, your mouth around light, and sort of tinder being a white space, the span of fire like a mirror. uh, really mysterious images. I also really love that moment of field, field, field. It's like the language can't hold the immensity. And we don't know if it's the immensity of the landscape that we're looking at before a fire, or if it's the, so much absence after a fire, the devastation of so much that used to be there and that's now gone. I was reading in one of those essays also that there was a fire, the Rodeo Chedisky fire, that burned nearly 500,000 acres in 2002. And so knowing that Jake Skeets is a poet where landscape also holds memory, there may be echoes of that kind of a fire within the landscape of this poem. So all of this too, I want to say that, it's one of warning and lament, I think, in some ways. There's some anticipation of what could be lost, um, a remembrance of what could be destroyed, and these things like meadowhawk, rodent nests, but also a sense of the beauty of the landscape. What's here? It's vulnerable and it's here. And the people also on that land are just as vulnerable. People for whom, survival, water is needed, and fire would be just as destructive. Um, but the close attention to life, and also the decentering of human beings, I really want to lift up too. Human beings really aren't present in this poem until kind of the very end. Um, I have a mentor in Australia, and she wrote about the devastation of wildfires in Australia. Uh, Her name is Danny. And Danny said that she took care of pigs after these wildfires destroyed everything and lifted up the feelings of these other creatures, after, feelings of grief, feelings of pain. And I feel like this close attention that we see in this poem, there's so many beings that we're being invited to notice and consider. We have deer, we have hawk, we have rodents, we have river brush, we have that undergrowth. And each one is named, is like sort of enough attention to give it a name and to notice it as something distinct. Um, I feel like one of the invitations of this poem is to get us to listen closely to our landscape. I'm noticing this picture not only of the fire, but of the butterflies and of the deer, um, the moon, yeah, again, the field. And yeah, in terms of the decentering, he said in another essay that, sometimes there is simply a field beyond meaning. We know there is a field because we see the field. We must continue to see the fields for those of us who drive past them or burn them down. There is a field. So this kind of attention, to observe, to witness, I feel like is such a strong impulse of this poem. The last thing that I'll say is that the ending, which is really mysterious, mouth as yes, exactly, Jenny. I'm noticing that the mouth, or is it the river's mouth? Is it a human's mouth? It's really again uncertain. But we end with this relational way. Your mouth. Who is the you in this poem? Who is he referring to? I think the reader is really implicated in this case. And we get the sense that it's a person now speaking to a person. Beautiful, mysterious. And that Tinder as white space, I couldn't help but pass that up. I usually think of white space as something in the creativity realm, like the white page before words are put down upon it, or the canvas before a mark is even made upon it. It's something that artists use all the time. It's a way of speaking. Uh, yeah, the speaker seems to be reminding us also in some ways of the power of the voice, of the human voice. And with our mouth, we're capable of shaping language. We're capable of advocating, of sparking action that can be actions of care or actions of devastation. And so if fire, kind of like Stacy, you were bringing in, if love, if care, if attention, the conditional, I mean, I mentioned the dystopian nation, but the sort of conditional of this, it's not certain that the fire will happen. And I feel like there's a lot of possibility in the open-endedness of this ending, that if we can use our mouths as a source of light, if we can use our creativity and energy, um, yeah, and if we can tap into the gratitude of what's around us, the gratitude of our landscapes, that's a game changer from which we can act. So those were some of my reflections on this poem. And I wanted to offer a prompt for you. Uh, and that prompt is about a landscape. So try to write a poem about a landscape that is so known to you, that you know so well, or that's so beloved to you, that you feel yourself in some ways identified to it. And try to use the poem as a way to lift up that place, to celebrate it, maybe with yourself as a speaker, but mostly humans decentered. And if you want, you can bring in, yourself or the human, maybe in the last line, but see if you can let the body of the poem pay attention to the land, to the other beings, the plants, the animals, the waters, whatever it is of that landscape. And if you'd like, try to write it in a way where you let the words and the form of the poem perform or exhibit characteristics of what you're trying to describe, characteristics of that place, however you want to creatively take that. Does that sound good?
Yes.
So Patrick is, I'm watching him here behind the scenes with his super speedy technology work, putting up a timer so you can see it in the corner. We'll write for 10 minutes.
We have roughly a minute left. We're coming to a close of our writing time here. So if you could finish off the last line you're writing, the last stanza, the last thought, and we will transition into sharing if you guys are all interested. And Eddie, would you like to call on folks?
That sounds great.
Great.
Yeah. And I feel like we've done this two ways before. If you want to use your reactions on Zoom to raise your hand, I'm happy to call people out that way. Bryce, I see exactly. And if you can't find how to raise your hand in the reactions, feel free to just put your name in the chat and I'll call you that way. Ellen, looks like you were brave enough to say first.
Yeah, I'm not always. This is If Waterfall. Quickening womb, river rushes, riffling in white water, rocks slicked green, fish flicker in the clear stream, limestone ledges, the edge of the line, the thunder drowns bird song, the mist dances in the sun. A rainbow falls into a pool, a mirror of the blue sky.
Beautiful. All of the attention to the little details, but also the way that it was written. I felt like could feel the water moving and the movement of the space. I also love that the thunder, that the bird song is there, but the thunder of the falling water is making it hard to hear. Thank you so much. It was gorgeous. Bryce.
Thanks so much. This is If Fog. If fog breathes mouth open over the reservoir, gulping the low tree bark and tall, tall grass. Fawn curls tighter, eagle hawk cries, crescent moon set. Behind orange barbed wire, moist dew on glass door. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm wondering about the glass door. Who is there and where this is? I feel like the presence of human beings there within the structure is so good at the very end.
Thank you. It's me.
Sherry.
Can't believe I did this. So I am rebellious. This brought up a visceral thing from my past.
Mm.
So and we have drought in North Carolina right now where I am. We are in a severe drought. So drought. And I didn't use the word if, I don't think anywhere.
Okay. And
I've lived in two countries, Honduras and here. And part of this is there. So drought. There, this wind carried rain through pines and down the mountain, but here it drains drop by drop, everything, soil, land, lake, souls. There, when we heard it, dry ghosts drifting to windows, We slipped thirsty arms through the slats to beg back life.
Thank you, Sherry. I love the way that, yeah, two places and the ways that you describe them can be in conversation with one another. And in that way, we see him sort of in context, sort of giving life to a different description, a different experience of each one. Thank you so much. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, but B Mia, I saw that
Oh,
you put
Maya.
by
Hi.
Maya. Okay, I
Yeah.
thought I saw your name in the chat. Feel free.
Okay. Um, so mine is titled If Ocean. Soft sand, crabs crawling, hiding, slender sandpipers, knowing, sifting, wings lifting beyond horizon, lies hope. Soft sand, left behind only footprints, delicate lace, and yet lumbering, I clumsily crush soft sand underfoot. Thank you.
Thank you. I love that the sandpipers are knowing the sort of intelligence of the the creatures around us and this presence of hope, which feels like it might not be just human. It was beautiful. Jane, a poet. Thanks for the extra.
I'm trying to declare it.
May it be so. You are.
If grass gone, urban lawns flattened, stripped of variety to get beauty. Gone is the clover, dandelion, pricklies. The annual summer barefoot bee sting, no longer a threat now that the lawn is sterilized.
Thank you. Yeah. I feel in there the definite presence of the human in terms of the impacts, the clover no longer there. Jenny.
Mine has a lot of people in it, but it is, I was very inspired by this, but the whole world is a stage. The audience murmurs turn to bird flutter and lift out the now bright exit lit doors as it all goes black. Sharp darkness anticipated. A blanket soft placed on a sleeping body. I close my eyes and breathe in the smells of soap and clean bodies, rustling programs and adjusting coats. This is the part I pay for, with a team of astronauts seeing Earth scoot around the moon. Awe under air-conditioned vents over creaking seats. The long sigh as the lights go up, the actors planted and blooming from the stage tulips of the color of spring.
Incredible. The human and the more than human kind of intersecting in really awesome ways in this theater image with the moon, the travels to the moon, and just beautiful. Felt like I was on the journey with you, holding my program in the dark. Wade.
It starts in my chest. A scream in my head, but in my chest. The sun bounces in waves off sidewalk, uncaring, near permanent sunlight caught here in bits rebounded off the concrete. I'm afraid it might escape, so I swallow and take another step. There is grass here. If I were to slow down to grass speed, what would be revealed? To be grass in sun. Would the sun wash my eyes, my breath? Why do I withhold my scream from the sun? Maybe I should send it off with the light back into the sky.
Gorgeous. The reflections in a walk, the sidewalk, the sun, the grass. I also love the idea of the sort of, how did you say it? Sort of swallowing, or the sense of like drinking in landscape around you. Thank you. Lynette, if you're ready.
Hi, I had to, can you still hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay. I dictated this and I had to leave the Zoom to dictate it while I was driving. So here goes. I'm haunted lately by the whales, the way they mourn their young by nosing them aloft for hundreds of miles, the way they whipsaw circles around a breaching mother, gathering in a circle of midwifery, the way they flip yachts to demonstrate their rage at the ones making them go extinct, the way even one kept too long in captivity can become the killer in his name. I'm haunted lately by whale songs, deep and mournful as they float across the ocean, beyond our intelligence to interpret them. I'm haunted by how they've forgiven us for harpooning them, for pouring millions of gallons of crude oil into their home, for driving them from their sounds with the sounds of our engines. And that's as far as I got.
Thank you. The sort of being haunted by these creatures. I'm also in the poem that we read, If Fire, one thing I didn't mention was the fire was described with his adjective crawl, and how interesting it is that sometimes these elements or other creatures, extent of language that we can do, we have to use these adjectives and verbs saved for human beings in order to describe how things move, what they're doing. Ted.
Oh, mine is called If Present, and it could be anywhere in the US. So, if present, echoes of the past screaming silently as rocks cry out through the soil, furious flowers sprouting wild seeds no field could hold. Only the wind could carry, only the water can nourish, only the fire will spark growth. Sometimes flowers bloom in concrete fields, birthed from the fury of the burning sun. Sometimes the uninitiated call them weeds and seek to eradicate their medicine with the fears of man, but we harvest under moonlight with hope.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ted. I feel in that the hope within what's difficult. The sense of seeds moving and trying to find a place to sprout even in the most unlikely of conditions. So appreciate that. Did we have anybody else? I usually don't do this, but I could read. Oh, Elena.
I think you have Beatrice and Stephen before me. You see that?
Did I lose
Hands
them?
up. I mean, I'll go, but
Yeah, who did I lose? Is there somebody that I'm missing?
Beatrice Shaheen and Stephen Barracan. No.
Sure, should we start with Beatrice?
Yeah.
Hello. So I'll read what I have so far. It's not finished. These are about the mountains hurling into the sea in Lebanon. These mountains hurtle along, head forward towards the sea. Holiest were the rainbow of flowers, who bloomed into trees, gifting the paradisiac fruit at the hands of the gods. At dawn the sheep will mew. In front of the sun's pinnacle, the storks will pass by, migrating west, migrating east, going north. Survive the bullets the never-ending soldiers will hurl towards them. At dusk, your fingers will harvest the olives, fetch the figs, carve the pomegranate, skin the citrus, pick the thyme and the sage and the rosemary. At midnight, the coyotes will be back, howling at the moon who battles with the drones for the limelight. And the fishes will swim into the nets, healthy and oblivious to their fates. Fates declared, the iris dying, the fire's most not holy, killing it softly. Amidst the ashes stirs the poison left to eat the fields.
Thank you. Yeah, Stacy giving I think a reaction that a lot of us feel, and that sense of the sort of devastation and destruction alongside the beauty of the earth and what's at stake. Thank you for the harvesting of what's beautiful amidst what is just terrible to watch as well. Who was next? I lost track of, I don't know that I'm seeing everybody. Perhaps it's because people are raising hands with their cameras off and I just can't see.
I think Steven is next, I believe.
Okay, Steven.
Yeah. If lost, what better place than the forest that takes you to a seven wonder? The wonder is around you. If lost, follow the path of the monkeys. They are never alone. Listen for the trees. They are hiding treats. If lost, look up for the birds, the colorful toucans glowing during golden hour. If lost, listen to the ground. Capybaras are around. If lost, keep going. Water will find the way. If lost, what better place than the forest?
Gorgeous. Thank you, Stephen. I love this sense of the more than human world as also helper in the midst of feeling lost. Deep listening might lead us to where we're supposed to go.
I'm next.
All right, thank you.
And then Mariessa has her hand up too.
Okay, so you then Mariessa.
Okay. Thanks, Eddie.
Thank you.
My voice is a little weird today, but
sounds great here.
One of my favorite places to walk are called the Marshlands, and they're right outside New York City in Westchester County. But I always have a little fear when I enter a nature place. Maybe it's because I'm a city girl. The Marshlands. If fear were a landscape, it would be arid and brittle. This one is wet. A lapping of waves against the reeds. Tiny birds cling with prehistoric feet, and a soft music begins with their twittering and the breeze through hollow stems, an organ pipe of an owl's hoot, and the desperate cry and crash of the loons like cymbals in a symphony break the silence of the surface, and warm rivers empty into the basin, and I am reborn, freed from the barren city and the lonely boxes of cement and stone. Thank you.
Thank you. To be reborn by these strange landscapes, the sort of prehistoric, alive in the shape of birds' feet, and what might be strange and fearful because it predates us. It's so different from us.
That's a good point, yes.
Thank you. Mariessa, I think I'm not seeing your name, but that's how I heard it.
Yes. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Marisa. The poem I wrote, it doesn't have a title, but it's about, so I'm in Los Angeles. So I went on a hike, in the Altadena area that was impacted by the Eaton fires. And that's what I wanted to write about. Okay. An endless creek hollows the pebbles at the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains. Shade crawls and winds its web, cool shade, a home, where the sound, so big, it deafens. Peace is here, peace is now. No peace is left behind from an urban fire. 15 moons later, I, the steward, return to find you, the creek, more healed than I.
Thank you, Marisa. These actual places with a sense of rebirth and growth, and also the tenderness of going back to a place that's been so transformed. Thank you. I don't see anyone else with hands raised, but I might be, again, not seeing everybody.
I think that's pretty much it. I did see a comment from Michael Verga, who sent in a poem in the chat, which I can read here. From the Heartland, he's writing from his native heartland, Birmingham, Alabama. Green is a primary color on the wheel. Man lands on the moon, still the earth trembles. Easter me back to life. And I actually see another hand from Rana just now. So if you want to share, Rana, go ahead. Raina.
Thank you.
Hey,
Hi.
Raina.
Let me turn on my camera. Hey,
Hi, good to see you.
good to see you too. Good to be seen. Okay, so I tried to keep the human out, and I also tried unsuccessfully to talk about a landscape that was beloved to me. I found that to be very difficult, and you'll hope maybe understand why. It's called If Freedom. If freedom, a highway pounded from mountain, millions of footsteps, lockstep, shackled hammers, marching through Piedmont, marching through stone, marching through time. The hovering heat ahead, mistaken for water, water, water. If the next world, stone restored, mountain stands saluting the sun, fields bow to ocean, Turtle Island sits pristine, still bathed by water and light.
Thank you, Raina.
Thank you.
And definitely, I feel like this is, once again, back to, Jake Skeets talks a lot about how landscapes hold memory, and not all those memories are beautiful. And also there's something a dear teacher was talking to me about recently, where to look at what is hard also gives us a chance to appreciate what we care about and what we love. And I hear in your poem, Raina, that sense of appreciation and gratitude and hope. So thank you. Well, I know we are winding down in terms of time. This has been beautiful, and I love being in a place that is so populated with, these landscapes and these other beings. It's kind of exactly what I hoped for when I curated these poems, and brought the more than human into the theme for this year. So thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank everybody for being here. Eddie, like I know, we had mentioned that like you had helped you planted the seed for mindful poetry, really. And so I hope it's been nurturing for you to see like where the program has come since then. So we really can't thank you enough for being here and being curator this year. So we're winding down. I'm going to send a reminder to everybody about the submission process for Mindful Poetry if you want to be featured in our book, which will be released in the summer. We also have a craft session on Friday with LA poet Sheila McMullen. That's going to be from 3 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I definitely invite you to come if you're interested in editing your poem or just learning about editing in general. And we'll record this video and send it out to everybody if you want a reminder of all the prompts and everything. Stacy, you have any thoughts?
I'm overwhelmed with the gratitude of the beauty of this community as I look at all of your names. So many of them we've been your names together on the screen are their own poem to me. And we've shared so much beauty, all of us together, during very complicated times in our world. And I can also imagine that it's each and every one of us have weathered some sort of challenges over these years we've been gathering. And just the power of community and poetry to keep us connected. Even when we have gorgeous folks like Eddie and gorgeous poets, none of this would have any meaning without the community of you to make it beautiful, to make it sing, to make the love be visible. So I just want to say thanks for coming each and every time, and we can't wait till we gather again.
Yeah. We talked a lot about Eddie's discussion, if fire, the big if. I think this space continues to hold so much possibility for hope and for connection and for just finding like-hearted folk amongst each other. So thanks again, everybody. I guess we'll do a final reading of the poem to read us out of National Poetry Month. Eddie, do you want to do it? Would you like to select anybody?
Sure. Is there somebody that feels called to read? Be so happy to have somebody read.
We'll put the poem back up so you'll get to see it.
Bryce. All right, Bryce.
Yay.
Sure. All right. If Fire by Jake Skeets. River brush float on the Rio Grande in very little water to the north. A sleeper fire holdover from last season's wild bust sprout. Flame crawl, the moon mistaken for a hole in the sky. If the next world still deer soften into field. Meadow hawk, rodent nest, overgrown undergrowth. All tinder is white space. Its span a mirror, your mouth around light.
Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
I'm trying to make a heart like the kids do.
Bye, everybody.
Oh yeah, that's how they do it, like that, little teeny tiny.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. See you soon.
Thanks, everyone.